This is when the emotional brain is like hijack our logical
Yeah,
brain and say,
yeah,
hey, don't do that because it's not safe
yes,
for you, right?
right, right. It's like falling in love, you know? Exactly that. So I think at the end of the day, it's not laziness. Because when we tend to procrastinate and when you don't do a certain, task because although you know it's good, I would just like to say that it's not laziness, it's got to do with biology, basically.
And it's, I mean, sometimes we think that, because we are not doing this, we are not good enough, we are bad. Like
Yeah,
sometimes
yeah,
we also fear people say we are lazy,
yeah.
or we don't care about our health, but it's just because it's in the brain.
This podcast shares personal stories and professional insights to support your financial well being, but it's not a substitute for personal financial, investment, or legal advice. Everyone's situation is unique. Please seek qualified, independent support that fits your life and goals. The full disclaimer and copyright notice is in the episode notes.
Hi, welcome back to another episode of the Financial Health Insight. This is a podcast we discuss about ways to lower your money stress and focus on living better today, then you can live well tomorrow. And in the last episode, I share about the topic of I know what to do, but why am I still not doing it? And I think there's a lot of things going on that prevent us from doing what we need to do or what we know or what we want to do. And today in this episode is pretty important because I'm not the expert who share things here. I have a guest and she is, I think, the most important and the right person to talk to us about how do we build small momentum and let the small momentum snowball onwards and make the impact become bigger and bigger so that we actually finally get to do what we should be doing and celebrate our success at the end of the day. So, who is this guest? Let me briefly introduce how incredibly powerful she is. Okay, she's a neuroscience expert and also a brain health coach. So that's why she's the right person to talk about something related to brain. And a mental health advocate who don't just talk about mental health, but she has a passion to integrate neuroplasticity, emotional regulation, and also mind body connection to create real lasting change with people. Sounds attractive, right? And very precious thing to have, especially during a time like this, where many of us want to work on something positive and get lasting change that we need. So she's also the founder of My Talks Worldwide. I think the best person to tell us more about her will be the guest herself. So let's put our hand together to welcome Coach Karry, and she also go by the name Brain by Karry, by the way. So welcome, Coach Karry. I'm so happy that you agreed to join me here, Karry.
Thank you, Kevin, and thank you for having me on your podcast. And thanks for that really interesting introduction. Oh, you put me on the pedestal already. Thanks, Kevin.
The first moment I got to know you, I think, is through an event or the course that we did together. So from the short videos that you share, I already made up my mind that I must invite you one day.
That is so kind. Thank you, thank you. I'm truly humbled. Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah.
So, yes, like Kevin said, I am a brain health coach. But all of this stemmed from my personal experience. Back when I was a child, I was diagnosed with hard of hearing. And I also was a dedicated caregiver to my sister who has schizophrenia. So the brain and psychology really was super interesting to me since I was a kid. And especially since the first time I saw brain scans. Yes, the brain does look like walnuts, and I was pretty young, and I was like, oh my God, that looks like a walnut. We actually have a walnut in us. But my passion is to, of course, help people improve not just their mental health, but their overall health. Because to me, the brain is a very, very important organ apart from the heart. Um, in our body. And everything starts with your brain or your mind. Everything starts with there. Your emotions, your motor skills, your cognitive function, everything starts from there. So I studied my master's in clinical and cognitive neuroscience back in the UK. I also have a bachelor's in psychology. But I've also been in the corporate world for about 15 years now. So it's a bit of a mix. Because on one side, I'm also a marketing person. I also do a lot of research. I'm into product stuff. And then on the other side, I've got my passion, which is brain health. And I also work with a Hollywood TV producer called Joel Relampegos, who has his own mental health organization where we basically give free mental health classes every Monday. So I do this with another partner based in Malaysia. So yes, that's pretty much about me.
There's a lot of experience under your belt, and not just in the same one industry, and it's like multidisciplinary experience.
Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah, so I guess you really work with a lot of people from very different background, and I think what makes it super unique and interesting is, of course, you also learn and study and research about brain health, which is something that not many people, especially I guess in our country, are quite aware of that. Can you tell us more about what is brain health and how do we care for our brain health? Because we have contents and people talk to us about how to take care of our heart, our different organ, but brain is, I think it's okay for me to say that brain is one of the organ that we have not really received the attention that it deserves.
That is so true. That is so true. So the reason why I love the brain is because it is the most complicated organ in our body. And to me, when it comes to brain health, like I said earlier, it's mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional well-being as well. So it's quite a vast area or a vast field, but this is what I focus on. And your brain is everything because it basically controls your emotions, it controls your physical side as well, it controls basically everything in your body. Because without the brain, you can't really function, which is why you see for example, elderly people who, are diagnosed with Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, dementia. And I've worked with the elderly as well back in the UK. There are certain functions that they are unable to perform. That's because of a certain part of their brain that basically deteriorates as they age. And one thing that I also sort of tell parents is, start taking care of your child's brain since the day they're born. In fact, there has been research that shows that the minute a mother gets pregnant, from the fetal stage itself, you have to start taking care of the baby's or the fetus's brain, basically. So the nutrition, which is why they say, when mothers are pregnant, take care of the food that you eat, don't stress too much because everything passes down to the child.
Yes,
So to me, this is something that I love because it's an organ, or as you know, science is always advancing, and the brain is constantly being studied on. And there has been, for example, there's been a constant debate on, is the brain and the mind the same? Are they both interconnected? And it's still a debate going on today. So it's quite interesting because there's always some new scientific, you know, explanation or scientific study that's out there related to the brain and the human brain, basically, and the body.
I see. It seems like you mentioned a pretty interesting part that is so true. That is that even from pregnancy, that moment during the pregnancy period, the kind of nutrition or the food the mothers take, right, has a direct impact on the brain health of the fetus, which is later will become a baby. Which means this is where the connection between money and brain health is actually started even before we are born.
Yeah. Yeah, that is so true. Oh, I didn't think about that. But yes, now that you've said it, yes,
Yes,
that is very,
because the
very
kind of food, the kind of food like the supplement or whatnot, the mother can take the financial side has a direct influence on that as well. So it has an influence. I mean, relationship is even before the person is born. So that's why I think we are here to talk about how to nurture
yes.
better financial health today.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So let's start with this, right? I just have this overarching question, like why do people sometimes find it hard to take action despite the best intention we have? We find it hard to really move ourselves or take action, even though when we are quite well aware that doing this thing or that thing actually can benefit us in the long run or in the future.
So, Kevin, this is a super interesting question, and it's great that you asked this because at the end of the day, we're all humans, and we've all been in that situation that, knowing what we should do, but somehow not really doing it. And where does that stem from? That basically stems from fear. The fear of not wanting to do it because you may fail, for example. So at the brain level, there are two parts of our brain. So one is the logical thinking part, which is your prefrontal cortex, which is based here. And then you've got your emotional brain, which is your amygdala. And the amygdala actually has a huge say. Your emotional brain has a huge say. Because if, for example, a task feels overwhelming, if it's scary, or if there is some kind of uncertainty involved, this part of your brain, which is your emotional brain, kind of sends a signal out that it's a threat, basically. And for example, so I'll give you an example. So for example, when it comes to like going to the gym, right? You want to go to the gym, but you find it difficult because you feel that that is an effort you need to take. You kind of take that as a task instead of thinking about if I go to the gym, it will improve my health, my overall health, right? Um, but as humans, we tend to procrastinate, right? So even though you know that going to the gym is going to, improve your health, you still don't do it because you feel that that is a task and it's an effort that you have to take. So what happens in your mind or in your brain is even though you logically know that this is good for me, your emotional brain screams, this is risky, let's avoid it.
And it's
Risky, yeah,
uncomfortable.
it's uncomfortable. It could be risky not in terms of an accident happening in the gym. It could be risky in terms of it could be risky mentally as well because it's that effort you need to put in and you don't want to do it, right? So I guess this is why some people find it difficult to kind of take action, knowing that knowing that the action that if they take that action, it would be good for them. So yeah, I guess yeah,
So
sorry.
the I mean, just from what I can hear from you is that one of the biggest reason we procrastinate or we don't do what we're supposed to do is because thinking about the task itself, it creates the maybe the image or the feeling that wow, it's like climbing a big hill and I don't see how I can do it, or it's so scary even just thinking about doing that thing.
Right.
And this is when the emotional brain is like hijack our logical
Yeah,
brain and say,
yeah.
hey, don't do that because it's not safe for
Yes.
you, right?
Right, right. It's like falling in love, you know? Exactly that. So I think at the end of the day, it's not laziness. Because when we tend to procrastinate and when you don't do a certain, task because although you know it's good, I would just like to say this, it's not laziness, it's got to do with biology, basically.
And it's I mean sometimes we think that because we are not doing this, we are not good enough, we are bad. Like
Yeah,
sometimes
yeah,
we also fear people say we are lazy,
yeah.
or we don't care about our health, but it's just because it's in the brain.
Yes, exactly. That is true.
So if let's say I know what I need to do, but I'm still not doing it somehow. So how can I reduce the influence or the control of the emotional brain to help myself, the logical brain, the executive brain, slowly and slowly regain the control so that I can start to think a bit more logical and act in the same direction? Is there any way or tips?
I mean, that is good. I think the first thing is the fact that if someone reaches this point, they've realized that okay, what I'm doing is I'm procrastinating and I need to get out of it. That is a big step itself. And the second thing is maybe kind of break down why you're feeling this way. It could purely be because of stress. Um, or it could be something that has happened to you in the past that you fear would come back again, and which is why you're unable to do the task. And it's very, like I said, it's very natural for us humans. I feel that way as well. And me being a brain health coach, I feel that way. So I wouldn't blame if someone else feels that way. Um, so I think take one step at a time, understand why you're feeling what you're feeling, and then take small steps to then put in the action that you need to, put in order for you to do that particular task. And once you start doing that, your brain automatically goes into this mode where it's like, oh, okay, so I started to do it. Let me continue to do it. And that's when you don't really feel stuck or you don't really feel overwhelmed, and you're able to do the task that you're able to do.
So one of the good tips is to take a few step back and understand
Yes,
what are we trying to avoid. If it's
right,
something like a pain or you fear of embarrass yourself going to the gym, then figure out how do you decrease that and by taking a small step, right? So
right.
so you said that when we start to do a small step and we will then easier for us to stick to it and continue to do it. So is there any reason in this? Is it something related to people say dopamine? That actually the dopamine effect will cause us to want to have more of the same feeling of achievement, and that's why it's likelier for us to continue to do the same thing.
Yes, you are absolutely right. So the dopamine is not just a feel-good chemical, as we all know it. It's also one of the chemicals in your brain that is responsible for motivation. So it also motivates you to do things more and more. So, for example, let's talk about finance, since it is the topic. So, for example, if you put in, 50 ringgit, you say you're someone who's never saved before and you're starting to save right now, right? If you put in 50 ringgit in your first month of saving, you've achieved something. Celebrate what you've achieved. Your dopamine increases and you're like, oh, okay, I've taken the first step to put in 50 ringgit in my bank account. The next month, you would see that your bank account has increased. Let's say previously your bank balance was 2,000, 500. Now it's, 2,050. 2,550? Yeah. My math is really bad, Kevin, so you gotta
No
help
worries.
me. So it's 2,550, and that's what you see in the next month. And then you keep putting in, let's say, 100 and 200, and that dopamine release motivates you to keep putting in money into your bank account until you've reached a level that you want to achieve
The
in your
target.
account. Correct. And it is very powerful. In fact, there was a research done by Harvard Business School, and they call this particular principle a progress principle, where their research basically showed that making progress, even small progress, is the most powerful motivating factor. Um, and the dopamine is responsible for this. Not just dopamine, but even serotonin is responsible for your adrenaline is also responsible for it. So adrenaline is not just what happens in the gym, all these
Okay.
chemicals come together and you are therefore motivated to do the task repeatedly until you reach that whatever you want to achieve, basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
Basically, the chemical like dopamine, it has its good side, and also if we
Yeah.
let it take control of us in the wrong way, then it become an addictive issue. So what
Yes.
we need to do is to learn to use it for our advantage. So I just tie back to the example you give, right? So let's say my goal is to save 20,000 and my starting point is 2005. Putting aside 50 ringgit might actually, in a way, I cannot imagine how can I make progress because the effort can look small. But
Right.
it is
Right.
in time like this that maybe you can suggest, right? I can put out, let's say, 12 attempts, 12 times 50 ringgit. This is my first step, first stage. project first milestone. So
Right.
my goal is not to track the amount, but my goal is to track or check the box that this month I've done the saving, this month I've done the saving. So visually I can see that I'm actually
That's right.
making meaningful progress.
Yes. Yes, that is very important. And I think before that, before writing down your expenses or writing down your goals or even tracking your expenses, etc. Um, One thing I think we should ask ourselves is, why are we doing this? Why are you saving? Are you saving? And there is no wrong or right answer, right? Because you can save for anything. You could save for an apocalypse. Anything could happen tomorrow. But why are you doing it? Are you doing it for your loved ones? Are you doing it for yourself? And is that really beneficial to you mentally? Because if you're doing it for your loved ones, eventually that kind of becomes stress, because you'd be stressed that, oh my God, I've got to do this for my loved ones, which means I need to work more, which means I need to save more. But if you're looking at it from a broader picture, like you're doing it for not just your loved ones, but for you and for your loved ones together, then your brain sort of says, okay, let's do this. Then you don't get into the stress mode. You get into more like, okay, let's do this together. Let's save together. Um, and I think it ties back down to, I feel that parents should start teaching children how to save since they are really young.
So I think one of the very good way for parents to teach their children, I suppose, is through their actions by being a role model, because
Yes.
children learn from parents and what the parents do. So I guess it's really very important in that sense. And also, taking back to the celebrating our small achievement or small wins, it seems like a very, very important thing that it's understated. A lot of time people want to do something when it is the level or effort that I feel worth celebrating. For example,
Yes.
I have heard
Yes.
people say to me that if I cannot save 500, the reason they are not saving it is because I think I should start with 500, but now at this moment, I cannot even start with 100. So that's why I wait for the time. The best time is when I finally know I can do 500. But that's why also they miss out the chance of saving even from 50 ringgit and build on that success. So why do you think we have this expectation or we demand on ourselves to do better and perfect before we start, even though small step is so important?
Okay. So one thing is, yes, small steps are, or small wins are very powerful. And I think it ties back to the fact that because we have that fear, because we don't see immediate results. So we feel that as humans, we feel that, what's the point of me putting in, 5 ringgit or, 50 ringgit when my goal is 20,000 at the
Yes.
end of the day, right? I want to see that 20,000 in like tomorrow, basically, which we all know, all of us know, even the person thinking this knows that's not possible. So we feel that, why should we do this? And this is very normal. It is a very normal feeling, but that's why it is important to celebrate what you put into your bank account. If you put in 5 ringgit, celebrate it. And don't celebrate it by spending the 5 ringgit, because then you've literally not saved any money. Celebrate it in other ways, kind of maybe go spend time with your family, do something that you've not done before. Or tell yourself, okay, I've put in 5 ringgit, let me wait. So for me personally, this works. When I save money, I would say, okay, fine, I'll put in 100 tomorrow. And once I reach 250, as in 250 of my savings that I've put in, I will maybe use 10 or 20 ringgit out of that to buy something for myself. This is just an example. So, so you're not tied to the fact that, oh my God, I've got to put in 100, I've got to put in 250, I've got to put in 300. No, you can celebrate it. At the end of the day, it is your money. As coaches, like as you and I, we can help people, but what they want to do with their health or what they want to do with their money is completely up to them, right?
Yes.
So we can guide them as to, let's make it easier for you. So as a financial coach, you may tell them, put in 100. As a brain health coach, I would tell them, okay, he's told you to put in 100. Next month, take out 20 out of that and enjoy whatever you want to do. And then maybe the month after that, put in 120 because you have spent $20 on yourself or 20 ringgit on yourself, right? So that does not make the person feel like I'm not reaching my goal, because they will eventually start seeing their money grow and grow and grow. And their dopamine does hit at that point and they're motivated to do more. It's also support system. Your support system matters as well. Do you celebrate with your spouse? Do you celebrate with your children? And how do you celebrate? I feel that don't stress yourself out too much thinking about, I'm only putting in this amount and I'm not seeing any returns. I'm not seeing any savings. You will. If you're the one putting it in, you will see it. Unless there is a ghost that has hacked your bank account and you can't see it, then there's a problem there. But otherwise, have patience. Have patience. Yeah.
I think when we hit our target, we will be very happy and very proud of the achievement. And but it takes time to get there. And it is the journey that sometimes, because the effort is not big enough, then we may feel like the effort is not worth mention. So that is where I feel the celebrating the small wins is so important, because it actually brings us a little bit by little bit the joy, the proudness, the achievement feeling. So I can share what I did, right, with people. Some of the clients, they are clearing off their credit card debts. So when they pay more to the credit card, I feel like it might not be good to tell them to, hey, take some money out and celebrate, because it actually means they need to spend more on the credit card.
Yeah.
So what
Yeah.
I did for them or with them is, when they show me they really pay a lot more to the credit card, I will just send them a Starbucks gift 20 ringgit. And if they live in places that have no Starbucks, luckily recently there's one, right? He said that place got no Starbucks, but there's a Zeus coffee. The app also support the voucher. So I just buy 20 ringgit. Oh no, I think 20 ringgit, and I share with him. So at least it's a cake and a coffee for you.
That is so cool. That
Bring
is
out
so
the
cool. Oh, I love, yeah.
celebratory mode.
Yeah, exactly. And I think this is important because what happens to your brain, and I think a lot of us have heard about this term called neuroplasticity. So
Yes.
exactly what you said, right? And exactly what we shared earlier. When you keep doing or when you keep practicing a certain habit, your brain basically rewires, your neurons rewire, so that leads to neuroplasticity, which then you're like, okay, I need to keep doing this. I need to keep doing this because I'm getting some kind of reward, for doing what I'm doing. And you keep wanting to do it. So I feel that, that's really important. And it's really nice of you to also, you know, to also do what you do. Um, because this then motivates your clients. So it's not just the dopamine hitting for them, it's you as a coach motivating your clients to continue to save and continue to clear their debts. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, this is some of the limited things that I can do. Instead of just sending them emoji in the WhatsApp and say, well done, I can do something better that can really make it more concrete for them to feel some achievement
Right,
of,
right,
happiness.
right, right.
Yeah, so from a brain health point of view, right, Carrie, between consistency and intensity, uh, am I right to say that consistency actually matter a lot more? I mean, from what you have shared with us so far.
Okay, so both matter. To me personally, both matter, but consistency wins because, like I said, when you do something consistently, when you continue to put in that amount of money, when you continue to go to the gym, for example, in this case, let's take the gym. If you continuously go to the gym, you would start seeing muscles. And let's say you're someone that your goal is to um, get muscles. When you start Even when you start looking at yourself in the mirror and you start seeing a tiny little muscle pop out, your brain automatically says, oh, okay, this is great. Let's keep doing this. Dopamine is hit, serotonin is hit, and you are so motivated to do what you have to do. And that's when you're like, okay, I'm going to keep going to the gym and I'm going to keep eating well. I'm going to take care of my body. And at the end, you achieve your goal. Now, yes, a lot of people maybe listening to this may say, but I have gone down a lot of times in between. And we do have those moments. I'm not saying that you have to be super perfect. I'm not saying that once you start something, you have to stick to it with full perfection until you reach your goal. We're all humans and we tend to fall down once in a while, and that is completely fine. But it's also how you pick yourself up after that. And when it comes to intensity, it is interconnected with consistency as well. Because if let's say you're consistent and let's say in the gym, for example, you are consistent and you're only lifting kgs every day, you're not going to see any difference if you're going to keep lifting 10 kgs if your goal is to achieve muscles in 8 months. Let's say, for example, I'm not a PT, but I'm just using this as an example. But if you increase the intensity of the weight, if you increase your intensity of your workout, you eventually reach that level. So when it comes to the brain and when it comes to anything that do, there is this theory called the Hebbian theory. So the Hebbian theory goes like, and I'm sure some of us must have heard this phrase, and this is one of my favorite, by the way. I have this as one of my status, I think my WhatsApp status. It's called neurons that fire together, wire together. And what it basically says is that's how habits and identity is formed. So you do a slow, repeated thing, not big, and you take small steps, and eventually your brain starts to automate that consistency. So yes, both are important, but consistency always wins.
So consistency, if we do something easy over a period of time, repetition, it become a routine and a norm to us. Then
Yes.
this is when we need to up the intensity a
Yes.
bit so that there's a growth there, right?
Right, right. It's just
Yeah.
like saving, right? I mean, yeah, if you're constantly gonna save, 5 ringgit every month. Are you going to be happy with that after 1 year, 2 years? I don't think so. And the best part is your brain is actually quite interesting and it's quite funny. When you start saving that 5 ringgit, you're automatically motivated to increase that amount. So
Yes.
you start seeing your bank balance grow and you're like, okay, you know what? Let me up this. Let me maybe up it to another 10 ringgit and then, I'll be saving 15 ringgit and then let me up it to another 100 or, 200. The brain is quite interesting. And I think it's a matter of when you start and if you fall, make sure you have the support system and make sure you have that discipline to come back up and say, look, I've taken a break. You may not save for 1 month and that's completely fine, but the next month I may save that extra of what I've not saved in my previous month.
We can
So
catch up
yeah.
again.
Yeah, you can catch up again, exactly.
Yes. And I think that's where most people misunderstood. They waited for the perfect amount or intensity. The idea is not that when you start with 5 ringgit, no one says if you start with 5 ringgit you must continue to save 5 ringgit. The idea
Right.
is start small, and when you adapted to it, that's when you can ask yourself, it seems like it's so easy like peanut for me to go to gym for 20 minutes. This time I'm going to try 30 minutes. This time I'm trying to
Yeah.
increase to 20 ringgit, no longer 5 ringgit. So the idea is the small step and then you adjust from there. Thank you for sharing about the consistency and
You're
intensity.
welcome.
Both are equally important.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So in terms of this, right? I mean, sometimes we are human being. Sometimes we feel tired, so fatigue. When we are fatigued, it's possible that we drop off from our action plan sometimes. So, do you think that building something or try to automate something and make it easier for us to not drop off would be important? For example, if every time I go to gym, I will need to think about packing everything instead of giving myself this obstacle, I make sure these things are all packed 2 days before, a night before, so that the next morning when I wake up, it's easier for me to just go. this kind of routine and automation if it's possible?
Yes, I love that you brought that up because actually our brains love routine. We don't know this, but your brain actually loves routine. So once you set that routine, it automates it. So for example, the first week, if I go to the gym, I may forget my gloves or
Mm,
something, you know, and then I have to make it a habit to remember to take my gloves the next week. And so my brain is like, okay, why don't you pack your gloves the night before? Like what, you correctly said as well, let's pack my bag the night before. And you keep doing that and you keep doing that and you keep doing that. And then your brain automatically builds that habit and it is automated for you. So it does free up a lot of mental energy as well. Because like we know, when we plan things, we are not we're not stuck and we're not overwhelmed if it doesn't really go our way, right? Yes, there are some things that will not go your way because not everything will go your way, but at least you've done the basic thing. At least you've packed your bag and you're ready. Now, if the gym is closed the next day, that's not your fault. So you can't really do much about it, but you were prepared the day before instead of running around and be like, where's my glove, where's my equipment, where's this, where's my water bottle, what do I wear today? Because of course girls like to plan their gym outfits. uh but I think automation does help, because that's where habits form. And
yes,
so, for example, I can take the most simple example: brushing your teeth. Don't we all brush our teeth every day? Why
yes,
do we do this? Because we have been automated to do this since we were literally kids, right? You
yes.
can't you can't say I forgot to brush my teeth today. You can maybe say I don't want to brush my teeth today, but you can't say I forgot to brush my teeth today,
It's all
right?
programmed already.
Yeah, it's all programmed already. So it's the same thing when it comes to other tasks. Whether it's saving money, whether it's going to the gym, whether it's taking care of your mental health, it's the same thing. Yeah.
In terms of saving money, I always like to encourage people to automate your savings so that you don't have to remember to sit down and do the transfer, because it's very easy for us to not do it if that's the case.
Yeah, I'm guilty of this. I should start automating my saving.
Especially we live in a time and age, right, where automating transfer
Yes,
and payment is so, it's like effortless.
yes. I don't know. I feel like I'm still old school. I still go to my bank account. I still, transfer the money that I need to save. So, yes, thanks for sharing that, Kevin. I'm going to keep that in mind.
So it's the same, right, for everyone. I mean, there are things that we are not doing or not aware that we can actually do something that can enrich our life. And especially when we talk about financial health, I think a lot of time it involves our willingness to trust ourselves as well. I mean, like what happens in the brain if we keep, not doing what we need to do or breaking promises we make to ourselves, and what would happen in our brain that actually may negatively affect us, or is there a way we can learn to trust ourselves better and don't tell story like this to myself, like I have always said but I've never done it, forget about it. I think that would be very bad.
I love this question. And I think this is very important because people don't really talk about this enough. Breaking promises to yourself. And if we go back to the emotional brain that I was talking about, which is your amygdala, this is also very important because the amygdala basically then tells you that and brings you self-doubt. It basically leads to shame as well and even fear of facing decisions. So basically, you've gone back to square one. You know, if you're breaking a promise to yourself, whether it comes to financial health, all the effort that you've put so far into saving money, you're going back to square one.
Yes,
And your brain, basically, what happens in the brain is when we break a promise to ourselves and we consistently break that promise, it actually weakens the trust pathways. So think of your brain as your liver, because, okay, so what I do personally is I actually think of my brain as my lover. So if I am doing something or I am breaking a promise to myself, I'm actually breaking a promise to my brain. And my trust pathways then get affected. And that's where, there's an internal voice in my head that goes, can I really trust myself? And I'm sure all of us have asked this at one point of our lives, whether it's finance, whether it's love, whether it's, anything else, we've always asked ourselves, can I trust myself? Why is this fear coming in? And each time you break a promise, the brain basically registers it as unpredictability or unreliability. And that's where your self-doubt, your lack of self-confidence, your fear of facing, situations or making decisions comes in. So if we talk about it neurologically and going back to dopamine, it lowers your dopamine. And it basically lowers your self motivation as well. So you're back to square one, your future efforts feel harder, and your brain subconsciously anticipates failure instead of success. So you've basically gone back to failure mode.
Even before we actually take the first
Yeah,
step, we already
yeah,
anticipate that it won't work because
yes,
these are your
exactly.
these are your result history,
Yeah, yes, yes,
and
that is
that's
so
not
true.
good at all.
Yes.
So I guess this
So
also emphasize how important all the little small steps that you mentioned just now, right?
it is. And I think it's also very important that we try and build a relationship with our brain first. Build that relationship just like how you would nurture your baby, nurture your brain, nurture your body, in fact, your whole body. And try and have conversations with yourself. Try and reflect, situations or decisions and see if I do this, what's going to happen? If I don't do this, what's going to happen? And think of it as, okay, if this does not work, fine. I will move on or I'll think of better solutions or I'll just let it be.
Mm.
Sometimes just let it be. The best thing to do sometimes is to just let it be.
Not
Yeah.
taking any action
Yeah.
sometimes could be best.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes not taking any actions could be best. That's right.
It's just that we feel that we have to do something. I think this also is related to the amygdala.
Yes, yes. The emotional, I mean, let's face it, we're all humans. The emotional side always wins or always takes over. Maybe doesn't really win, but it takes over your logical side. And there are some people where it's the opposite as well. And I mean that's a whole different topic, but there are some people where their logical, side is actually quite stronger than their emotional side.
It's too
But
strong.
yeah, it's too strong. But we're all humans. Yeah.
Is it why some people cannot feel love or emotions or fear and they are very it's like we say like it's like robot like that.
Um, I think some people feeling love, uh, I can't really say that they don't, okay, maybe they don't feel love with human beings, but they could have other feelings towards other love. Maybe they love animals more than human beings, and that's completely fine because you
Yeah.
still feel love, right? And I think some people, they come up as robots because of past experiences. Maybe they've been judged too much. Maybe they've been abused as kids. Maybe they're still currently going through abuse. So I think it would be unfair to say they don't feel love. I think they do feel love. I think where they feel love is up to them. Yeah.
Exactly. In some cases I mean in most cases I think how do I put it together is you see sometimes we want to do something like I know I need to do this. But maybe could it be like one of the hurdles that prevents me from doing it is also because of how I perceive my self identity. So for instance, if I want to work hard and accumulate more money, more success, but I feel that if I get too rich, that means I no longer belong to the circle of friends or family that I have because we feel safe because we are similar. But if I have a breakthrough, it's like I'm detaching myself from them. So this is one example I can think of for self identity. Maybe it's not the exact very appropriate one, but could this become like a hurdle preventing us from achieving sustainable change?
Absolutely. See, because for us, identity is everything, right? Especially when it comes to change. And honestly, I love the example you gave. Like, if I become rich, will I lose everything? But you also need to understand that when it comes to success, you are going to lose certain things along the line. Whether this is relationship, whether it's more money, whether it is your health, but how do you accept it or how do you move on from that matters. Now, so basically what we're talking about right now, it is what is known as confirmation bias. So what happens in confirmation bias is you unconsciously look for evidence to support your old story because you want to go back to that comfort zone. So when we say or when we think I don't want to become rich because I will lose people around me, so let me stay in my comfort zone. But at the same time, you do know you want that. It's just that you're stopping yourself from reaching that goal, which is not fair to yourself. Forget about the brain at this point. It's really not fair to yourself. So, what it's called is emotional safety. We all yearn for that. And why that happens is because we have this fear. And this is also because of society, what society has shown us. So, we've seen in most movies that the rich person doesn't really become successful at the end of the day. So, that movie then enters our brain, and we feel, is this what happens in reality? Yes, some of it may happen. We've seen people where they have, lost they've basically lost their marriage or they have, deteriorated their health while wanting to be successful. But which is why brain health coaches or even financial coaches or even business or life coaches are there to help you along the way. And always remember that if you feel this way, go back to your goal. Ask yourself why you feel this way. Is it because society is telling this to you? Is it because someone else has told this to you? Or is it just your fear? Yeah.
When you mentioned society, I was thinking about a different example. It's like I want to save money, but I also want to show people that I can afford, let's say, a more expensive car or more expensive clothing. Because if they see that I'm driving a cheaper car, they feel that I'm not successful, even though I have more money in the bank. So I think this is like what you said, it's a story we tell ourselves. And I think the most effective way and importantly is to take a few steps back and understand why do we have this story in the first place. Then only we can gain the awareness and reprogram the story. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, don't get me wrong, like luxury is a personal choice. I'm not saying that if you have lots of money in your bank account, don't go and buy a BMW. But what I'm saying is that really what you want?
Yes.
Is a BMW going to give you that happiness, the temporary happiness? Because we all know materialistic things are temporary. Buy that BMW if you want, have that experience, but don't do it because your friend next door has a, Ferrari and you want to buy a Lamborghini, or don't do it because, someone has come and said, oh, please buy the new BMW because it's really good. Do it because you want to do it and
Yes.
you want to feel good about it.
Yes. And we also cannot avoid comparing. Is I
Yeah.
think it's one of the nature to compare. Uh, Without comparison, there won't likely be any improvement. Which is also why we acknowledge that we cannot avoid comparing. So we compare on things that make us better.
Yeah, but I also look at it because, okay, so because personally, I'm also into spirituality. So I feel that when you compare yourself with someone else, deep down, it's also your insecurity, because you're not happy with yourself. So you're trying to latch on to someone else's happiness and make that your happiness. So I feel that once you've reached that stage where, you're happy with what you have and you have people around you who accept you for who you are, you will never compare yourself with anyone. I've got friends who are rich, and I've got friends who also, drive sports cars. I'm not rich. I don't drive any sports car. But the fact that they are humble people, the fact that they accept me for who I am is important for me at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I don't need to, just because they've gone and bought a Mercedes or a BMW, I don't need to go out there and, crack my head. Of course, can I even afford it? I don't think so. So that's a different question altogether. But I think comparing yourself will lead to more stress. So just be happy with what you have and work towards what you want.
Yeah. I mean, it's contentment is a very important virtue that it deserves more attention. Yeah. So if someone, right, they feel like they already tried doing something but they always fail, it's like they are in a state of like learn helplessness. Uh, is there any tips or advice that you can offer to them?
Yes, I think first thing I would like to tell them is you have not failed, but actually your system has failed you. And most of the time, people set goals that are unrealistic. It's too big, and they want fast results, and they don't build that safety net around them. So, there's no small wins, and you're like, okay, I will only celebrate when I reach that goal that I have. But what about the in between? So I would say, and my advice would be start tiny. Pick a goal that is small first and not a goal that's something too big for you. And keep your big goals, but maybe keep a deadline for it. Do your small goals first, because when you start achieving your, small goals, then your brain automatically is like, okay, I'm winning, I'm winning, I'm winning. So then you get to your big goal and you're ready for it at that time. Don't immediately jump to your big goal. The second thing is celebrate relentlessly. Every small win you have, celebrate it. I don't think you should feel shameful. Don't think you if the best thing is sometimes don't share it with someone else, celebrate it on your own. So if you're scared that people would judge you and they'd be like, why are you always celebrating your wins, then either they're just not good for you, they should be out of your friend circle, or just keep it to yourself
Maybe
you
they are
know
envy that you can celebrate
yeah,
something.
exactly, that's true. And I think the third thing is very important, which is support system. And also talking to yourself like you would talk to someone that you love, and that's basically reflection. So let's say, you basically look into the mirror and you tell yourself, you know what, I've achieved this today, so I am going to celebrate it. It's like practicing affirmations, looking at yourself in the mirror. And remember that it's not about being perfect. It's just being consistent, and it's about being persistent. So if you are someone that, and I know a lot of us can be perfectionists, but that's where the problem starts. When you start thinking that I've got to be perfect at this, then you may not reach your goal, because down the line you will drop mentally. You will feel stress and all that. So yeah, I mean, these are the three things that I would advise someone. Just the most simplest things, actually.
And these are all the very practical things.
Yeah.
I love that you said that sometimes it's a system that makes us unable to
Yeah.
continue.
Yeah.
Yeah. Going back to the gym example, I was just thinking if let's say the whole gym, right, they see that any member coming to the gym, everyone celebrate, say good things about the person. Well, you did very good because you come here. I'm so happy to see you. You just make that person feel so good about coming. I
Yeah.
think they will continue to
Yeah.
come.
Yes, I remember my experience when I was so my goal was to lose 8 kgs. This was 2 years ago, and I was going to the gym, and there was this young guy, and he was coming in, and it was my I wanted to lose 8 kgs in 3 months. It was I think a month and a half. And he literally looked at me and he said, you look much better. And I can see that your look has improved, your body has improved, and I can see that you're starting to be a little bit muscular. And that itself was such a motivation for me. Not that my husband wasn't motivating me, he was, but it's very different because your husband or your wife sees you every day. So you don't, sometimes you're like, are they just saying this because they love me?
To make you feel
But
better.
yeah, to make you feel better. But when it comes from someone else who sees you in the gym and they're also, a stranger or a friend, it means a lot. And that also motivates you to do or to go to the gym and to do whatever you need to do. So
Yes.
yes.
I guess for the young guy to say this to you is really very effortless to him. It didn't
Yes, and
make him,
also
yeah,
I need to say this, he wasn't flirting. He was genuinely genuinely giving me a compliment.
yeah, exactly. I mean, you see, for him to do this gesture, it doesn't cost him anything, and
Exactly.
it doesn't make him sweat for sure.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
give a compliment, and the ripple effect that compliment creates is only you can know the confidence
exactly.
level, the
Yeah,
happiness, right? So
yeah.
powerful.
It is very powerful.
Yeah, but I guess the biggest fan we need is us ourselves. But most of the time, we talk to people in a nice way, but we talk to ourselves, we judge ourselves, we have a standard that is way higher for ourselves.
Yes,
And
I
we need
love
to
that you
learn
said
this.
that. Yes, I love you said that because we often create the bar so high for ourselves, and I think we don't realize that that is a hindrance to our body, our mind, and our growth as well. So I would also say, don't set the bar up too high for yourself. Know your limit. Like you've got to know what your limit is, and you've got to know where you can push that limit, and only push the limit once you've reached a small goal or a small win. Then you slowly push your limits.
When you arrive at your checkpoint, then you
Correct.
can, yeah, replan again how to up
Yes.
your effort and whatnot.
Yes.
I mean, even though you are a brain coach, uh, I guess you do have your fair share of up and downs also. Have there been time that you found yourself stuck or low on motivation? And if yes, what did you do to help yourself get going again?
Oh, I love this question. Yes, of course I have a lot of times. In fact, recently I have not been going to the gym, and I think I've been a bit demotivated, not because I've put on the weight back because I've not put on too much, but I think I'm just demotivated because I'm super stressed. But what I did was I went back to square one. I went back to my journaling. I went back to writing down my goals that I did previously. Sometimes it's just going back to, square one. And I think I asked myself, why am I demotivated? And maybe I'm demotivated because there is no motivation externally, maybe because right now I just don't have the time. And I gave myself time that I would start small. I would go back to square one and start small again. So, yes, I started doing my steps, which is my 10K steps every day. And I also said maybe the gym is becoming a bit too boring for me. Sometimes some things can be a bit too boring. So, yes, change it up. In this case, when it comes to the gym, you can change it. Maybe, do a sport, take up a sport. And I said, okay, maybe I want to play paddle. Maybe I want to play basketball. I used to play basketball before.
Oh, we
Maybe
can
I want
play
to play
one day.
football. Yeah. And starting that way may motivate me to go back to the gym, right? And one thing I also do is I do a lot of meditation, I do a lot of journaling, and that helps me as well. So, meditation is something that I've been doing for the past 4 years. I've also got my husband to get into meditation now, and that's something I do consistently. So, when you have one habit that you've been doing consistently and the other habit breaks, you still know that, okay, I've got the other habit. All I need to do is just look at the second habit that I got out of and try and see where I can fit that in. So it's quite easy when you are disciplined in one area, versus you're not disciplined at all and you really need to go back to your root. Yeah.
think we can have another episode to talk about how do you build discipline also. It could be one of the very interesting topic for many people because people always tell me I don't know how to be more disciplined. But you shared a lot of things. I'm just curious, right? Uh, how does journaling help us to program our brain to reinforce all the small wins?
Yes, yes, it does. In fact, I do practice manifestation meditations, and part of that is my journaling. So I write a letter to myself, my future self. So when you journal, there are different ways of journaling. People have different ways. Nothing is right, nothing is wrong. My journaling that I do is I write a letter to my future self. So I break it down into four different segments. First one being my health. So if I have a goal of, let's say I want to achieve 52 kgs in December, I break that down, but I write in a way that I have already achieved that. So that's manifesting basically. So I wouldn't write that I will achieve 52 kgs. I would write I have achieved 52 kgs in the month of December. Similarly, when it comes to finance, my financial health in the journaling book would the second part is finance, the third part is my relationship, and then the fourth part is my purpose. Why am I here and what am I doing for people out there? So yes, journaling does help. It just depends on you, what kind of journaling you do, and you don't have to do it every day. So the thing is, people think that journaling is something you have to do every day. No, journaling is very personal. So you do it when you feel like doing it.
I think the thought of doing it every day is like a syndrome of perfectionist already. That is
Yeah.
why we don't do it because wow, do it every day. The sound of it is
Yeah.
already quite challenging to keep it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Carrie, before we wrap up this session, I would like to ask you one last question. Do you have any book or resources you love or enjoy that you want to share with the audience and maybe also me?
Yes, so there is this book, and I'm sure most of the audience have heard this. It's called Atomic Habits
Ah,
by James Clear. And I love this book. Now, I'm not really a person that would read self-help books. I'm a person that reads comics actually and
okay.
neuroscience books. But I like this book because he has really simplified the and understanding why small and creating that understanding of why small changes matter more than big goals. So I love this book. I don't have any other books that I can think of, but this is one of the books. The other thing is because I'm a spiritual person, so I do follow a lot of, spiritual podcasts, and that helps me as well because that helps me ground myself. It helps me with my goal setting. And there is this one guru or a spiritual person that I follow. His name is Master Shri Akarshana. I do follow him. And I do watch a lot of entrepreneurial or self-help podcasts. I think one of it is by this guy called Stephen Bartlett.
Okay.
He's quite famous actually. He's a British entrepreneur. I love his podcast. So because he gets different people from different fields and industries, and it's quite interesting. I also listen to crime documentaries. Yeah,
That's
that
one
that
of your
is
interests.
yes, yes, that's one of my interests. Because actually my dream was to be a criminal psychologist. That didn't really work out. But I do listen to crime documentaries, but that is something that's my stress buster. So yes, to also tell everyone, please have a stress buster. Have something that's out of, something that you enjoy doing. And that takes away a lot of, burden mentally and physically as well.
Right. So what I'll do is I'll get all the books and all the people you follow. I'll put the link
Yes,
in the show notes so that people can also just
thank
by one
you.
click make it easier for them to check
Yes,
it out more also.
yes, yes.
And Carrie, if there's anyone who wants to follow you or reach out to you, where or how is the best way?
Okay, my Instagram. You can also add me on LinkedIn. I think we can put the
Yeah, I'll put the
links
link
as
in the
well.
show note
Yeah.
also.
I am mostly on Instagram and LinkedIn. I do have a Facebook page, but I hardly use that. And I do have TikTok, but I'm sleeping on that app for now, which is, yes, another thing that I'm procrastinating. But yes, I do have a TikTok account as well.
Your TikTok videos are all very insightful and also interesting.
Thank you, Kevin.
So I do hope that one day you find the time and motivation to pick it up as well. Uh, and I think you are also planning to start something in the next half of the year, right?
Yes.
Would you
Yes.
like to share this a little bit here and so that people can
Sure.
track on you?
Sure. So, guys, similar to what Kevin's doing, I do want to, of course, invite people from different fields and professions to sort of talk to them about, their field and brain health and what and it will most probably be more into mental health. How they sort of, it'll be like a podcast as well, but it would be more of what has their experience been in mental health or in brain health as well, and how have they overcome that experience and what they do in their daily life, and yeah, how do they build habits as well. So that's something that I'm working on in the second half of this year. Um, and yes, I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully, I don't procrastinate.
I just made you make a declaration
Yeah,
here.
exactly, exactly. You just did. So that's a bit of a pressure, but yes, I will do this. I will do this.
But I will follow you. I'm sure when it's all ready and done, you will share
Thank
it
you,
on your
Kevin.
social.
Yes, I
So
will.
we will track on you.
Yes, yes, please do, because then now I'm like a bit more motivated to do it as well. Now
Yeah,
that Kevin has announced it.
I'm sure you have your purpose and you let your purpose
Yes.
guide you to do what you want to do.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks.
Okay, so I really very appreciate you setting time. I know
Thank you. Thank you for
you
having
really
me.
did your best to squeeze time out for me, and for that I really 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 very appreciative of that. And this is even before all the insight and value you add on to the show and the episode here. If you are willing, I'm sure there are so many more topics we can talk about. One of the topic I had in mind was actually nutrition and brain health and financial health, because these are all related.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, that would be
Yeah.
fun. Yes.
Hopefully one
And
day we
thank
can get to
you.
do it. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Kevin. I feel that, this is so important, and I've not really seen or heard many financial coaches do this as well. So I am super grateful that you've done this, because this would help so many people out there, struggling to understand why they're not reaching their financial goals. Um, so thank you so much for having me as well. And I am truly humbled to do this. And yes, anyone can reach out to me if they have any questions at all.
Pleasure is ours and it's mine for sure. With that, really, thank you. So, thank you, everyone. If you like the episode, do share with people, because not many times you hear people, especially an expert, talking to you about brain health and how can you work closer and closer to your goals, right? So, with that, see you the other next time. Bye bye.